did ask you to make sure it's clear that Ray's in agreement, but, because you're just saying defense exhibit, and is there a different way we can handle that so it's clear for the record?
Well, that's why I say I have no objection.
You want me to keep asking?
It's both.
So I should keep
It's
asking?
probably better to do that way.
Okay. Okay. Just wanna make sure. I think I still need to ask to make sure that if you thought it was doing a different way.
I'll call you bluff.
I don't know, a cause, a wax, a wax.
She's good, she's good.
Brian is probably. Good. Thanks. We're all set.
Yeah, Mom? Your Honor, all the jurors are present.
All right. Everyone ready? Can we bring them in? Ready? All right.
Bring them in.
Jury.
Bring them in.
Oh, okay. It just, all of a sudden,
Sorry.
go. Oh, yes, go.
We borrowed it.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Just- No. It doesn't matter. I had one. Jury. Jury may be seated.
Everyone else may be seated. And Mr. Lawrence, you may continue with your inquiry.
All right, Ms. Robinson, would it be a fair statement to say that you made your phone call to 911 right around 5:35, 5:36 in the morning?
Yes, sir.
And when you reported at or about 5:36 that morning on 911, the fight that you had been witnessing, was that fight over with at that time?
I believe so.
Okay. And shortly thereafter, on the 911 tape, 30 seconds or so, you remember saying that you saw a shot in the air?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you saw that shot in the air, can you describe for me, if you would, by holding your hand, what the direction or how it was that the shot was fired into the air?
It was up.
And you clearly saw that?
Yes, sir.
All right. And the person who did that, can you describe the person for me, not in terms of physical appearance, because I think you've already told us that you were not able to do that, but you did describe an article of clothing, did you not?
Yes, sir.
And what was that article of clothing?
The red shirt.
Within 10 to 15 seconds after that first shot, did you hear any other shots?
Yes, sir.
And how many more shots did you hear?
I believe there was 3 total, so after the first one, there was 2 more.
All right, and they came relatively quickly.
Yes, sir.
And would it be the same for those 2 shots that you subsequently heard after the first one in terms of what you saw pointing up in the air?
I'm not positive about the second 2. I believe I may have backed away from the window at that time.
Okay. All right. You saw the first shot with your own 2 eyes.
Yes, sir.
You're not certain that you saw the next 2 with your own 2 eyes, but you believe you may or may not have.
I'm not positive of myself. I know I heard them.
All right. But you heard all 3 of them.
Yes, sir.
And now, when those shots were fired, well, let's talk about the one that you saw. The person that you saw fire the shot, can you tell us if they were pointed in a particular direction or not?
Yes.
What direction were they pointed in?
West.
Now, when the person fired that shot, pointing with their body was facing west?
Yes.
Ron? And
Their back is to me.
okay, very good. And where were they? Right. Where was he? And I'm assuming it's a he. Did you ever see a she out there?
No.
Okay, so you're certain it was a male?
Yes.
Okay. So where was he when you saw the shot fired up into the air?
In the street.
All right. And would it be the street where? And if you have that little pointer there, you can point it.
In this area.
All right, and the area that you're indicating, Ms. Robinson, is the area right out in front of number 9 Aspen Street?
Yes.
And so what you actually witnessed was a person. Did you see that person walk into the street?
I do not recall.
But you saw a person in the street,
Yes, sir.
facing west,
Yes, sir.
firing a shot up into the air.
Yes, sir.
And very shortly thereafter, as you heard on the 911 tape, you heard 2 more.
Yes, sir.
Now, was there any particular reason why you didn't see the other 2?
I had many times. I may have stepped back when the shots were being fired.
And I think defendants exhibit 2, and when you look at that, that is your bedroom window,
Yes, sir.
and are those the many blinds that you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
And I think one of the days, I guess, when we came out to this, you actually put your finger through one of them, kind of peeked to show us kind of how you did it. So you saw the first shot, someone standing out in the street pointing a gun up in the air, and of course heard it. But when you heard that shot, did you have a reaction from that shot that caused you to back away from the window?
I'm
Scared
not
you?
positive.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not positive exactly what happened.
All right. And after the gunshot was, the 3 shots were fired out in front of the Greenlaw residence by the gentleman who was in the street. Now, was this gentleman also wearing a red shirt?
Yes,
And was the person who had the bat type object also wearing a red shirt?
yes,
And so, based upon the fact that you saw a person with a bat wearing a red shirt, and you saw a person shortly thereafter shooting a gun up into the air facing westbound wearing a red shirt, did you make the leap and assume that it was the same person?
yes,
All right. So, based upon that, you made the conclusion that the person who fired the gun up into the air was the same person that had swung the bat you saw previously.
yes, sir.
All right, very good. Now, this person is looking westbound and firing shots up into the air, and at that point in time, do you see anybody else out there, if you can recall?
I don't recall, but I believe on the 911 tape, that's about the time the Jeep came in and it illuminated the street.
All right. The Jeep to which you are referring would be whose Jeep, if you know it. If you don't know whose it is, describe it for us.
It's a white Jeep, it's Wayne Greenlaw's.
All right. So you, prior to this time, had seen Mr. Greenlaw in that Jeep on a number of occasions. It's always sitting out in front of the house over there, number 9.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, gentleman is standing out in the street firing shots up into the air. At any point in time during the course of the times that we've talked over the last few years, which have been several, have you ever described those as warning shots?
Yes,
And is that in fact what you believe they were?
yes,
So, gentleman is standing out in the street firing up into the air warning shots, and at or about that time, the white Jeep that is usually parked over in Mr. Greenlaw's house comes down the street.
yes.
Okay. And when we say comes down the street, could you take your little laser thing there? All right, it's coming down that way. All right, very good. So it's coming eastbound on to Aspen Street. No, sorry, that westbound.
Westbound.
Yeah. And if you're going to get onto Aspen Street, other than coming the other direction, which would be off of Azalea, what's the only road you can come off of there?
Roosevelt?
Right. So even though you didn't see the vehicle coming down Roosevelt, to get to that point, that's where it had come from, wasn't it?
Yes,
Okay. So you see the Jeep coming westbound down Aspen Street, and as it comes down Aspen Street, were the lights on the Jeep on?
yes,
And in the illumination of the lights of the Jeep going westbound down Aspen Street, were you able to see anything in the headlights of the Jeep?
I saw the guy in the red shirt.
All right. Were you able to see anything else?
At this time, I don't recall, but the 911 tape mentioned something about other people.
All right. Now, this event took place almost 3.5 years ago.
Yes.
Right? And you would probably agree that your recollection of the events were probably much better 3.5 years ago than they probably are today.
Yes, sir.
So if the 911 call in fact said that you said that the headlights of the Jeep going westbound down Aspen Street eliminated 2 persons going westbound, should the jury rely on that information?
Yes, sir.
So, Jeep is going westbound. It eliminates gentlemen that had shot warning shots up into the air, and also eliminates 2 other men going westbound on Aspen Street. Where did the Jeep turn into?
The driveway at 9 Aspen Street.
All right. And when it pulled into the driveway at 9 Aspen Street, were there any other vehicles in the driveway?
No, sir.
Now, there was another car there though, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. It just wasn't in the driveway, right?
No, sir.
It was kind of parked in the yard.
Yes, sir.
All off to the left hand, if you're looking at the house, or those photographs you showed looking at the house, parked off to the left-hand side of the driveway at a little bit of an angle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what color of car was that?
So it's burgundy car.
Okay. So Jeep pulls into driveway after having come westbound off of Roosevelt down Aspen Street. When it pulls in, do the lights of the Jeep remain on, or are they turned off?
I believe they remained on for a few moments.
Okay. Did you see anyone exit that vehicle?
I do not remember seeing anybody out.
Okay. But you're certain about the fact that the Jeep came westbound down Aspen Street after the 3 warning shots were fired in the air because of the illumination of the lights onto the gentleman with the red shirt?
Yes.
All right. All right, so Jeep pulls in. Gentleman in red shirt, where does he go?
I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. And you didn't see anybody actually get out of the Jeep?
No.
Now, about a minute or two later, does someone with a dark shirt walk out of the house?
Yes.
And could you tell if there was any difference between the person who walked out of the house that was wearing a dark shirt as opposed to the person that you saw out in the street wearing the red shirt?
The dark shirt was taller.
And based upon your knowledge of Wayne Greenlaw, do you believe that you have a recollection about who that might have been?
Yes, that was Wayne Greenlaw, and I saw him in the dark shirt.
Now, when he walked out the door after the Jeep had pulled inside or into the driveway, within a minute or so, he walks out. When he walked out that first time, did you see a weapon on him?
At the time that I saw him walk out of the door,
Yeah.
it was him that was carrying a larger rifle.
And I realize, of course, that you said that. John, can you give me just 1 minute?
Yes.
And, you know, I'm probably going, taxing your memory a bit, but at some point in time, do you recall on the 911 call, I'm going to show you, Ms. Robinson, what is previously been marked as defendant's exhibit for identification purposes. And I ask you if you would please go over to page number 9 of that particular transcript. And I want to draw your attention to beginning at line 5 of that. And I don't want you to read it out loud. But I want you to look at it and just read it to yourself if you would. Take a minute and go down to line 11. Make that 12. see that? And before I ask you a question about that, I want you to go down to the bottom of the same page, on page 9, and go down to line 23 and line 24,
Okay.
line 25, and then the first line over on the next page. All right. Now that you've had an opportunity to look back at that, Ms. Robinson, and read that, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about it, if I may. Number one, in reference to just reading it back, does that help refresh your recollection about what you may have said at the 911 call?
Mhm. Yes, sir.
Okay. And in reference to lines 5 through 12, does it refer, are you referring to a gentleman that walks out of the house across the street, the Greenlaw house, wearing a gray shirt? And he's yelling. You can't hear what he's yelling about. And then you say you see a flashlight, and it might be the police, but the operator goes, not so lucky, they're not there yet, right? And further down on the page, then you see a person, about a minute or so later, there's now a rifle. There's a guy that just walked out with a rifle. And what did you tell them the color of shirt that he was wearing?
His was dark.
Okay. So, after the Jeep pulls in, after the 3 warning shots are fired with a gentleman out looking westbound who is wearing a red shirt, after seeing 2 people going westbound, a person comes out of the house across the street facing westbound yelling. You do not say anything about seeing a weapon at that point, but about a minute or so later, you see a person come out with a rifle.
Correct.
Question. Was the person that you saw come out of the house the first time wearing the gray shirt, and the second person who you already identified all along as being my client, Mr. Wayne Greenlaw, were they one and the same person?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And so you think that another person came out of the house over at Greenlaw residence, now somebody wearing a gray shirt,
Mhm.
came out in the street, faced westbound, and was yelling?
I don't remember seeing them yelling. I don't remember seeing them face west. I just remember hearing yelling because the operator was talking to me. I told her to hold on, and I remember I wasn't looking out the window, but I was trying to lean in and listen.
Okay.
So I don't know. There was nothing to see.
All right. So the bottom line is, once again, your memory of what took place would be better served by looking back at the 911 call and or the transcript of that.
Yes.
All right. But he clearly is yelling, whomever this person is, right?
Yes.
And at that point in time, you say you can't hear him, but you do see a flashlight, do you not?
Yes.
All right. And when you see the flashlight, where is the flashlight coming from?
West.
And when you look at that overhead map there, the bend in the street starts to take place down around number 11, really gets big down at 13. How far can you see light coming up the street to the west from your house?
I don't think I understand. Can you
And-
ask that again?
and-
No, I didn't say that. I just saw lights. I don't know if they were facing east or if they were coming west. I just remember lights. There was flashlights.
All right. You indicated that you saw a flash.
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you followed that up by saying that you saw a light. Was there a difference, and you can look on page 9, lines 10 and 13. Is there a difference between the flashlight and the light?
No, I believe it's the same.
One and the same?
I believe it is.
And I know it's been 3.5 years, but you don't recall where that was coming from? Okay. All right. But you see it.
Yes.
And there's a person standing out in the street wearing a gray shirt yelling.
I don't know if they're in the street.
You're right, there was a person outside yelling. And then you see the flashlight coming up the street. Shortly thereafter, you see Wayne Greenlaw come out of the house with a rifle.
Say that one more time?
Shortly thereafter, you see Wayne Greenlaw down in lines 23, 24, and 25
Yes.
come out of the house with a rifle.
Yes.
Now, to the best of your knowledge, we are now several minutes into your 911 call. This occurs on page 9.
Yes.
Is this the first time that you have seen Wayne Greenlaw, to the best of your knowledge?
That I recognized him, yes.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so Mr. Greenlaw comes out of the house, and he has a rifle. And where does he go?
Into the street.
All right. And when he gets into the street, what does he do?
Fires in the air.
And how many times does he fire in the air?
I don't know.
All right, but you see him, or strike that, did you see him fire into the air?
Yes.
Okay. And you heard it.
Yes.
And if the evidence is that in fact there are 2 shell casings out there in the street from the weapon that he had, would that in fact be the best evidence of how many shots he probably fired?
Yes.
So he goes out into the street. Does he face westbound?
I believe so.
And he is facing westbound and firing. Would you describe those shots that he fired up into the air, warning shots? Okay. So he fires 2 warning shots up in the air. And this is after someone with a red shirt has previously fired 3 warning shots up in the air.
Yes.
After someone with a gray shirt has gone out in the yard at least and is yelling.
Yes.
And after Wayne Greenlaw has come out into the street looking westbound and fired 2 warning shots up in the air.
Yes.
Okay. At that point, did you ever see the person wearing the orange shirt come back out of the house again?
The red shirt?
Red shirt, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. All right. So what happened with Mr. Wayne Greenlaw at that point, if you could see?
After the 2 warning shots?
Yes, ma'am.
It became rapid fire. I ducked. I hid by the foot of my bed
All right.
and screamed.
And seems to be an appropriate reaction. There was a time here not too long ago that I asked Mr. Nappy and Ms. Schuler to come out to your house, and y'all went over that 911 call that we previously heard,
Yes.
right? And at some point in time, when those shots were fired, I believe you may have indicated to them that you could hear those shots. on the disc?
Not the rapid fire.
All right, you couldn't, you just heard the warning.
You heard me yelling
Okay.
that it's rapid fire behind my 911 operator.
Now, one of the questions that I had asked them to pose to you was if you could tell how long it was that the rapid fire shots occurred. And did they discuss that with you?
I believe so.
And do you recall what you thought about that?
I don't know how long it took. I was yelling at the operator.
And at the time that that occurred, could you go over to the transcript at page 10, line 13? Give me just 1 second. At this time, obviously, you just heard 2 warning shots, and now you've heard 5, right? You've
Oh,
heard
yes.
3 out
Three
there
and then
before,
2.
you've heard 2. Your nervous level, I'm assuming, is probably about off the scale. Very concerned about not only your own safety, but the safety of your 4-year-old little girl, right?
4-month-old.
Woman, I'm sorry, she has grown a lot since this.
Yeah.
So, if you would go over to page 11 and look at lines 6 and 7, and is that the point in the transcript and in the 911 call where you heard rapid fire?
No. It was before that. The, if you go back to the page where it says, line, excuse me, page 10,
Yes, ma'am?
line 16, my God, inaudible,
Yeah?
it's in there, in the inaudible.
All right. So did it occur, and that's on transcript at page 10, lines, starting at 15, it says, oh my God, I have a 4-month-old baby, oh my God. And during that time period, right there when you were saying that, is that when the shots were fired?
Yes, that's when it was rapid fire.
And were they all fired during that period of time? Whenever you were saying that to the 911 operator?
I believe so.
And what you were saying to the 911 operator was, oh my God, I have a 4-month-old baby, oh my God. And during that time, you hear rapid fire shots, and by the time the operator says, just stay inside, it's all over. All the
I'm
rapid
not
fire
positive of
shots.
that. I can't say for certain.
But,
It was in that very excitable moment on the 911 call that it was all taking place.
and looking back on it now, if you can, 3.5 years later, would you think that those shots that were fired rapid fire like that were very, very quick?
Yes,
And without being able to put an exact time on it, would you think it took less than 5 seconds?
I couldn't say.
Now, you heard 3 warning shots, 2 warning shots. Subsequently, a little bit of time passes, not long, about a minute or so, and then you hear rapid fire.
Yes, sir.
Did you hear any other shots fired after that?
No, sir.
So everything occurred, at that point, all the firing was over.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, from your house, you're not able to see down to where the shooting took place, is that right?
Correct.
So you would not know anything about a person walking up the street with a flashlight.
No, sir.
Even though you saw what appeared to be a flashlight, you never saw a person with a flashlight, did
No, sir.
you? And you wouldn't know anything about the person with a flashlight having a shotgun,
No, sir.
or where that person was whenever that shotgun was fired, if it was.
No, sir.
You only know what you know.
Yes, sir.
And what you know is You saw a fight. You heard and saw, well, let me strike that. You heard 3 warning shots, but you actually physically saw 1 warning shot. And you see Wayne Greenlaw fire 2 more warning shots, and this happened over a period of 2 or 3 minutes where the warning shots were
I think it was closer to 9 total.
fired. Well, would you agree with me?
Because the first shot is right after I call into 911. I believe that this took place about 8 or 9 minutes in.
The rapid fire shooting took place approximately 9.5 minutes in.
Okay.
Then it was preceded by the warning shots from Mr. Greenlaw, right?
Yes, sir.
So a period of time passed after Mr. Greenlaw fired his 2 warning shots before the rapid fire warning shots were fired. So if the rapid fire shots were fired approximately 9.5 minutes into it, his warning shots would have been prior to that, right?
Yes, sir.
And you called, and it was a minute or so before the other 3 shots had been, warning shots had been fired out there.
Yes.
So there may have been a 7-minute period where, or 6 or 7 minute period where there were no shots fired, right?
Yes.
But there was activity over there, wasn't there?
Yes.
So it was, as a matter of fact, when you listened to that 911 call here today, I never heard you stop talking. Did you?
There was quite a bit. It was the operator talked a lot.
Yeah, she did.
There
But
was quite a bit of lulls. There were lulls.
there were some lulls in there of a minute or 2, a couple of minutes, but they were not long. Is there anything else, now after the rapid fire shot, subsequently you see what you believe was Wayne Greenlaw walking back because he had the right to?
Did I say that?
I think so. Let me find it for you.
Because I don't remember seeing Wayne come back.
Page 13, line 1 and 2.
Okay,
Guy with the rifle just walked back in the house.
you're right.
And after the rapid fire shots, then all the shooting and everything had ceased.
Yes.
And subsequently, you saw Mr. Greenlaw walk back at some point in time back to his home because you identified him as the man with the rifle.
Yes.
All right. All right, now I want to ask you a couple of other questions about, you've gone through the time period with us that started at or about 5:36 in the morning of October the 29th. And your husband has identified that he left 5:15 to 5:20. There, and using your 911 call as the barometer, 5:36, and using Mr. Robinson's leaving at 5:20, there appears to be that there's about a 15-minute period from the time your husband left to go to work before all hell breaks loose over
Yes.
there. Is that all right?
Yes.
All right. Now, prior to that time, let's change pace for a moment. Prior to 5:15, 5:20, when your husband left to go to work,
Mhm.
had you seen anything happen over there at all?
I had no reason to look.
Okay. Didn't hear anything, though? Okay. So you have no way of knowing from the information that you have given on your 911 call whether or not the person or persons who may have been involved in the fight had previously been there that night. Is that right?
I have no knowledge of that.
Okay. And that's not what you're saying. You're telling us about what you saw from 5:36 for about the next 15 minutes.
Correct. I
Very
did
good.
see the fight prior to the 911 call though.
Right, and you told us that. How long do you think that lasted before you called, just to get an idea of when the fight may have started?
It took me a few minutes to realize what I was hearing, so it may have been 3 to 5 minutes before I actually called into 911.
All right, so if we backtrack 3 to 5 minutes from 5:36, and let's just go back 5, that would put us at or about 5:30, and your husband left at 5:20, so it would have been roughly a 10-minute period before whatever happened over there happened. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Robinson, thank you very much. Very nice to see you again.
Examination by counsel for defendant Ray Greenlaw.
All right, Ms. Robinson, just a couple of things here. You had made reference, well, actually in the 911 tape and in the testimony you've given today, you talk about seeing 4 men outside, and it looked like 2 of them were in some type of an altercation and the other 2 were just standing there, correct?
Yes, I'm correct.
Now, during your direct examination, or during your examination by Mr. Will, you were talking about a person that was wearing a white T-shirt.
Yes, sir.
And you indicated that the person with the white T-shirt was the same, my notes reflected, you said the person with the white T-shirt was not Wayne Greenlaw, was not Ray Greenlaw, but appeared to be the same person that you saw with the green truck and the bicycle.
What I know that when he was asking me to recall that, that's what I was recalling was the green truck. I may have misunderstood Mr. Will when he was talking about earlier.
So would it be fair to say then, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but would it be fair to say that the first time you saw anybody that had a white T-shirt was when the green truck pulled up and you saw somebody with the bike, and the person who had the bike had a white T-shirt on?
I'm not positive what the other 2 men that were standing outside during the fight were wearing, so I can't say that definitively.
All right. But would it be fair to say that the other 2 people that were standing outside when the fight was going on, neither one of them was the person that put the bike in the truck?
I don't know.
You don't know for sure?
I didn't get a very good look at them. I just glanced and then I left the window to call the 911.
Now, it also appears from the 911 recording that you saw the flashlight, or at least you saw the light, prior to seeing the person you've identified as Wayne Greenlaw coming outside and firing the shots in the air.
If that's the order on the 911 tape, I don't recall at this time, but if that's the order on the 911 tape, then yes.
I don't have anything further. Thank you, ma'am.
Re-examination, Mr. Will.
2 questions.
We approach that as I don't want to make a motion. I don't know what his questions are going to be, but I'm going to make a motion regarding potential questions.
All right, let's take the jury into the jury room so that can be made clearly on the record.
Okay, Your Honor, we don't need to just confer with Mr. Will the questions that he was concerned about. He's indicated he's not going to ask.
All right?
So they can all sit down.
All right, Mr. Will.
Robinson, you want to stand up and sit down with me real quick, please?
I mean,
2 questions are easy. The flashlight that you saw down the street west of you, Did you ever see the beam focus on anything within your vision path?
No.
The person that you've identified today is Wayne Greenlaw, that you've seen over the years and that you saw on October 29th, 2011. Do you see him sitting in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point at him and tell us what he's wearing, please?
He's wearing the black jacket and a blue tie with a white shirt and glasses.
You want standing?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
Mr. Robinson has been allowed to remain in the courtroom. Is there any reason why Ms. Robinson would need to be recalled?
Not that I can think of.
Defense counsel?
No, ma'am.
Valerino?
No, Your Honor.
So the court may excuse both of the Robinsons from their subpoenas? No objection?
No objection.
All right, Mr. Robinson, you are released from your subpoenas. You may go home. You will not be able to be recalled in this case. You are still subject, of course, not to discuss your testimony with anyone that has not yet testified. You may continue to converse with the attorneys in this matter if there's any need, but you are excused at this time.
Your Honor, is it okay, it's sad here because we thought they were going to be projecting things. I forgot. It's okay.
Let's ask Mr. Go ahead. You're good. Mr. Will, do you anticipate using the projector for Ms. Talsley's testimony?
I don't anticipate using the projector again today.
Okay, then yes, let's go ahead and put the screen up, and counsel and Mr. Ray Greenlaw may turn around.
I mean, I realize that Mr. Lawrence may use it, but at least until such time as it's going to be used.
Diane Talsley. Is it Talsley or Townsley?
House. No name.
Sure, the jury remembers Ms. Talsley has previously been sworn, so she may take the witness stand directly.
Witness is seated.
You may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir.
Could you tell us your name, please?
Diane Talsley,
And where do you live, ma'am?
10 Aspen Street, Daytona Beach, Florida,
And how long have you lived in that location?
since 1980.
And were you living there, or do you recall living there on the morning of October 29th, 2011?
Yes,
And you were home that morning, correct?
yes, I was.
With respect, you know the Rob.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the court would announce that Ms. Towsley is a joint witness for both.
I agree. I apologize.
We forget to do it, it's not his fault.
Sorry.
Mr.
Thank you
Mott
for that.
Mr. Mott reminded me.
Thank you.
Ah,
Ms. Talsley, while we're at break, you need to speak up as loudly as possible. It may not be your normal course. You're right up against a microphone case, so I can't tell you to speak into the microphone anymore. You need to speak up a little bit. We have 15 people over here that need to hear every word you say, as well as everyone all the way on the other side of the courtroom. So you do need to speak up. Okay? Thank you.
You were home on the morning of October 29th, 2011, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know Nicole and Eric Robinson?
They live next door to me.
And which side do they live on? If you're facing the street at your front door,
They live on the left side, if I'm facing the street, sir.
and so you're closer to the Greenlaw residence than they are.
Yes, I am, sir.
In fact, you're almost directly across the street. Almost.
Just about.
Now, do you know Wayne Greenlaw?
I spoke to him when he first moved there because he was painting his house Just enough to say hi, hello, not much, sir.
Would you even know him if you saw him today?
Yes, sir.
Did you see him here in the courtroom?
You're talking about Wayne.
Yes, ma'am.
He's the dark-haired one.
The one standing behind me in the middle there?
Yes, sir.
You know his brother, Ray?
Only by sight, never talked to him, sir.
And did you know him back in the time of October 29, 2011?
Yes, I've seen him, yes.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell me what he's wearing, please? Point him out.
He's behind you.
Okay. He's the gentleman over here in the blue jacket?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see that.
That's okay. You can stand up if you like.
Okay. I just saw his white hair, sir.
I know it's been a while. Is that your best guess that that's Ray Greenlaw? Okay, thank you, ma'am. You didn't know either of these guys too very well, did you?
No, sir.
You had just seen them maybe a couple times around the neighborhood.
Just hello and hi, how are you?
Maybe when you get the mail, maybe when you drive in and out of
Yes.
it.
The most I talked to him was when I first met him. He was painting his house and he had a bad back and we had a conversation then.
Okay. And that's Wayne, you said, that was painting his house with the bad back?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Think back for me, if you will, to October 29th, 2011, early morning hours. Still would have been dark out. What were you doing?
I was on my couch, which is where I